What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer. Yesterday, I took a look at the new Firewall support, and I thought, it's so cool. I love big boss monsters. I'm going to go ahead and try to test it out. So, I'm going to show you three kind of test hands, combos that I was able to pull off. Hopefully, I don't do anything illegal. I'm going to go slowly. There's just so much material on your field, there's so much to manage. It's so easy to just like fly through it and do something wrong. But I think these are legitimate, as far as I know. And these can produce like some of the just most buku bonkers insane end boards you've ever seen. So the Cyberse pool is huge. Of course, like Cyberse was like the first Link stuff to come out. And the pool of what you can do now is just wild. So Circular, if you don't know what this card does, it sends a Mathmech monster and then special summons itself. And then when a Mathmech is special summoned, you get to add a Mathmech spell or trap to your hand. This card is Mathmech Sigma. If you control no monsters in the extra monster zone, there you go. While this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Cyberse. No problem. We're only doing Cyberse stuff. So I can go ahead and, from my hand, add a super factorial. There's a few interesting factors, no pun intended, when searching this card, because you want to go through the Cyberse ritual that just came out as fast as humanly possible. So the only way that's possible is to have a spell in your graveyard. A lot of the times you're going to be searching the Mathmech spell that reborns from the graveyard, which is what I do here, because you need to get one in. So you don't always have a position to only search super factorial, just kind of depends. In this case I did, because I had microcoder in my hand, and you'll see where that all kind of means. But normally you would think, okay, well this doesn't make sense, because the Mathmech monster that uses it needs three materials, and you're only going to have two if you use Mathmech equation. I will show you how easily it is to search other pieces of the puzzle. I have not normal summoned yet, which is just so crazy. So this is the new Firewall Defensor. When it's sent to the graveyard as link material, that's special summon a Firewall monster for my deck, which is always very cool. I can change those into Cyber Switch, just two Cyberse monsters. Everything is Cyberse, obviously. And then that's going to trigger the new Defensor to bring out the new Firewall Phantom. So if this card is sent to the graveyard as link material for a Cyberse monster, I get to add a Cynet spell and trap from my deck to my hand. And then unfortunately you do have to discard a card, which kind of sucks. Okay, so I now can trigger this, right? When a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, you have to banish a spell from your grave. So when I was doing my initial combos, it's almost even too powerful. Yeah, I was just like, anytime a monster is special summon, I thought that this triggered, but you do have to banish a spell. That's where that Mathmech equation comes from. Luckily, it's super searchable, because like Parallel Exceed even can go into, Alan Burschen. It's a generic rank 4, thank goodness. Alright, so I get to add Cynet Ritual and then the new Cyber Sage. And also, when this card uses its effect, it gets to bring back a level 4 Cyberse. Or lower. Just, this card's crazy. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and use the effect of Microcoder from my hand. So if a Cyberse monster you control would be used as link material for a Code Talker monster, this card in your hand can be used as material. And when it's used as material, you get to add a Cynet spell to your hand. Cynet spell or trap. So it's going to trigger both. So Phantom gets to search a Cynet spell, and then Microcoder also searches a Cyber spell and spell or trap, excuse me. But you do have to discard one for those. So I'm going to go ahead and discard Ash Blossom, because I am going to go into Heat Soul, and the chances... This Infirm is probably going to be a generic cantrap anyways, too. It just kind of makes more sense. But the idea, like when I was doing my test hand as well, I might as well discard Ash Blossom, because I'm going to set this, and then Heat Soul might search me another, I might draw into another copy of Ash. Very minute thing, but, whatever. Alright, so I can activate Cynet Codec. So every time a Code Talker is special summoned from the extra deck, I take a target one of those monsters, add a Cyberse with the same attribute from my deck to my hand. So every time I get a new attribute in rotation, I get to search. And there are, again, Cyberse is huge. There's so many things that you can do. One of those being your transcode talker. So I can use Circular and Talker to go into transcode talker. So I get to search. I can target this transcode talker to search an Earth. That helps me search out a code generator. And then I can use the effective transcode. This brings back a link through a lower Cyberse link. So Code Talker comes back. Doing a little bit of thinking here. And I'm going to change those into Heat Soul. That being the Cyber Switch and the Firewall Defensor. And that's going to trigger once again. I can target the fire here to search a Fiber Cyberse, Mathmech Subtraction. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's pretty much anything. So in the beginning of the turn, I was like, oh, am I going to, you may have thought like, oh, you're not going to be able to get another Mathmech into the graveyard. How would you do that? It's right here. This is how I do it. I can also send it to the graveyard with Code Generator, actually. Code Generator, when it's used as link material for a Code Talker, it Foolish Burials a Cyberse with 1200 or less attack, which this fits the bill of, but my hand was so crazy that it didn't actually matter. And this can also be used as link material from the hand. So crazy. Okay, so then I can go into Protect Code Talker. This is a new monster here. Basically, all it does is it's a body that protects. So link 4 or higher link monster you control cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects or be destroyed by battle. And that's a dark, so I can go ahead and search a dark. And then I can use the effective Code Generator to Foolish Burial a Cyberse. I then get to add another extender in Cross Debug. It just goes on and on forever. And, you know, Dotscaper was sent to the graveyard, so I can bring it back. I can use the effective subtraction here. Doesn't really matter. Actually, I'm going to bring these back. I remember doing this. Gotta wait just a second because I do want to go into the ritual. It's very important. So it's just a level 1, so I get to, you know, get rid of that Dotscaper. So it's really just a free body there, but it's going to produce so much advantage. I can change that into a Lingariba. All it requires is a level 4 or lower Cyberse monster. Now I can use the effect of my Cyberse Sage to banish a couple of cards. This requires a Cyberse, Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, or Link monster. So that's the Link monster plus a Cyberse. And that's going to be Microcoder, of course. And now I can start really going into it. So this is Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid. So that's 1, 2, and then a Link 3. So that's equal to 5. And I now fit the requirement for a lot of these. So this card says if this card is link summoned, you can place counters on this card equal to the number of different types of Cyberse monsters in your graveyard. We have the Ritual, we have the Fusion, and we also have the XYZ. And it gains 2500 attack for each counter on it during the battle phase. So this is going to go ahead and grab 3 counters, if you can believe that. And this card says Cross Debug, as long as you control 2 or more link monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Just doing a little bit of thinking here. Again, it gets hard when you get into the later stages of this. I can change those into a Code Talker Inverted. Most importantly, it's just a body. This card lets you banish, so it lets you banish a number of link monsters from your graveyard with a total of 3 link markers. I think you can banish just a link 3, but in this case, I do Code Talker on Lingaribo, giving myself just all of everything that I need. So this is where I can go into my new monster here, and it kind of depends. Like, you can get rid of the Protect Code Talker if you really want to and keep Heat Soul. The one draw isn't really that important to me. I'd rather have protection on the board. So that was 2, those 3 plus 2 is 5, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can use these as one body, even though you can't use all 3 of it, right? You can't go over on the link rating. I think this counts as a 5, and that's 6. Pretty sure. So then I get to go into Firewall Dragon Singularity. And then, yeah, just take a look at this end board because it represents a lot. So I have 3 bounces, either any 3 bounces. You can target cards your opponent controls and in their graveyard, up to the number of different types. So I have my Ritual, I have my Fusion, and I have my XYZ. Return them to the hand, and if you do, this card gains 500 attack for each returned, and I think that's permanent. If a monster this card is points to is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard, you can target one Cyberse monster in your graveyard, special summon it, which is really good because you can just bring back something like Heat Soul. No restrictions at all on it. So this is 3 bounces. This is 3 monster negates. I think I go through it kind of. Yep. So 3 bounces, 3 monster negates. In case you forgot or you haven't seen this yet or didn't watch my video yesterday. Okay, when a spell trap card is activated while you control a link 4 or higher Cyberse monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, negate the activation. So that's another interruption. This is technically 3. This is technically 3. So this is kind of like the 4th interruption. Oh yeah, and by the way, all that time ago, Super Mathmech Factorial was also summoned. So I get to bring back 3 Mathmech names, overlay into, is it called Alimbertian or is that the other one? Oh, okay. Prime Mathmech Lapsian, I think it's called. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm a math teacher. I feel like I should know. If a Mathmech card you control would be destroyed by card effect, and you attach material from this card instead, you can attach up to 3 materials and do the following effects. Send 1 random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, so you're kind of rip opponent's card. Send 1 monster your opponent controls to the graveyard, disruption, and then send a spell trap your opponent controls to the graveyard. That's another form of interruption. Oh yeah, and of course, like even earlier, earlier in the turn, I had imperm, and then this is also an omni negate, Cynet conflict. Like you know, like the kind of thing around Yu-Gi-Oh is like, oh, your opponent just sets up a million negates and you can't play, and that's like, I was like, it's not like that. I love end boards like that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I know it's generally hated, but I think it's so cool that this is even like possible. In the like, look at this. This is amazing, and I think with more practice, I can kind of produce more end boards like that. As far as I know, I didn't do anything wrong. I think that is everything I did is pretty squeaky clean in terms of the combo. We'll go over a couple of other ones. These ones are a little less unassuming to an extent to show you what you can do with a little bit less, I guess. So I can go ahead and normal summon the Defensor and use Generator to go into a couple of, effects here. 3, so Parallel Exceed is going to go ahead and go down. I can dump a Dotscaper that was off my Generator. And then the Defensor, go ahead and summons Firewall Phantom from the deck. Now I can use the Parallel, and I can also use the Dotscaper because that was sent to the graveyard. Okay, now I can go ahead and go into a rank 4, that's Allen Burschen. So pretty much what you're trying to do is just get access as fast as possible, to the Mathmech equation. That way you can go ahead and search the ritual. So I can go ahead and freely special summon the addition. Again, these are all just free extenders from the hand. That's going to trigger, the circular because the Mathmech was summoned. And now I just kind of have to do whatever I want, in a sense. Got to be careful with your link zones, right? It's just full of bodies. And, the Firewall Phantom is going to trigger. I do have to discard a card. I am going to do Ash. Might as well keep my interruption there. I'm going to use the Mathmech equation. Go into, I just needed the spell in the graveyard. Go into Lingaribo. It just requires a level 4 lower Cyberse monster. Meaning I can banish that spell and search the ritual spell in the ritual monster. Now I can use it. Again, using Dotscaper is just a great thing to do. And then I can use Codec here, trying to clear some bodies off my board, which is kind of crazy. Going into, I have my transcode talker, so I get to search G Golem Rockhammer. This card's in your hand, you get to reduce it by 2, but most importantly, you contribute this card, special summon 3 G Golem tokens. They're all Cyberse tokens in defense position, and it just locks you into Cyberse, nothing else. You can do anything you want with the tokens, which is kind of insane. Now I can use the effect of Sage. I'm going to go ahead and banish a Link and another Cyberse monster to go into Cyberse Deus Worm. This lets you freely special summon a Cyberse from your hand, getting this level 6 body right on the board so I can use it for its tokens, and then I can start my plays. So IP Masquerena is a pretty decent choice in this deck. It requires 2 non-Link monsters, which is not too hard because you have a lot of floating bodies all the time. It's not just Links. Now I can change those and go into Singularity. So that was a 3. This makes 5. This is 6. So that's pretty legit there. This has 3 interruptions already, right? I have a Ritual, I have a Fusion, and I have an XYZ in my graveyard. Now I can use the effect to tribute itself, make 3 tokens, change 2 of those, go into the Code Talker inverted. So I do have Codec on the board, so I can search a light. I can then change those, not touching the inverted yet, turn those into Heat Soul, right? A token, again, it's just an Earth token and a Dark Cyberse. So those are 2 Cyberse monsters with different attributes. That adds up to 3. And I can search a Fire now, just keep getting those extenders. I can now draw a card as well. Draw into Effect Veiler, which is kind of cool. Now, all I have to do, backup security, just you have to control a Cyberse monster, very free. And I can change those into Protect Code Talker, right? A Link, Link 2 plus a 1, that makes 3. So I can go to Protect Code Talker now. And then, again, a Dark. Haven't searched a Dark yet. Codec is so crazy. It's such a wild card. I control 2 or more Link monsters, so I can freely special summon there. Subtraction, I can target my Protect Code because it's going to go off the field in just a second anyways. And that does make 5, so that is a Link 3. That's 4. That's 5, so I can go into my Fluid. Dark Fluid, and that's going to put 3 counters on that. So that's 3 monster negates. I have a Heat Soul, 3 bounces, an Effect Veiler, and I can also just bring back Protect Code, right? So I can protect my monsters. And then during my opponent's turn, I can pay 1,000 life points, draw a card, 3 interruptions here, or 3 bounces, 3 monster negates, And then don't forget, from the graveyard, I also have this one. So when my opponent activates a spell or trap, I can banish it, which is great. Very, very cool. So that is another replay. I'm just going to show one more, and I'll go pretty quickly. This is like the worst case scenario, it kind of feels like. And it's still pretty darn good at the end of the day. So I can just normal summon here, and I can go into Parallel Exceed, bring that out, probably go into a rank 4. That is going to be the Alimbertian. This is like a pretty neat one, so I can search Circular here, right? Because I want to be able to dump my Sigma, but it has to have no monster in the extra monster zone. So that's where Almirage kind of comes in clutch, because I can go ahead and just use the effect to, you know, protect it from being destroyed. So now I can use the effect, and then I can go ahead and search here. I'm probably going to search the spell. Unfortunately, I can't search the trap, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So when you use that effect, when you bring it back, it gets banished. No big deal. I can turn that into a Lingaribo, go into Mathmech Equation, and that's going to go ahead and trigger it finally. And now I can grab Cynet Ritual. I can now grab Sage. And then I can use the Ritual, you know, getting rid of my Effect Veiler. I guess I technically could have got rid of Circular too, but I think I need the Link material. Sage can go ahead and banish, you know, the Almirage and the Parallel Exceed. Once again, going into Deus Worm, it's like kind of the mainstay or what you're going through. Heat Soul there, I can go ahead and draw a card. I draw into a Firewall Phantom, which is great. Everything's an extender, so I feel it's either going to be a hand trap or an extender. Like, there is no in between. That's what all these cards do. So Deus Worm is online, meaning I can go ahead and use it to special summon that from the graveyard. Change those into a transcode talker. So that is a 1, 2, 3. And I'm unfortunately not going to be able to use Phantom because I don't want to get rid of the Ash or the Cynet Conflict. That's really what you search most of the time, Cynet Conflict anyways. So it is what it is. It really ended up just being kind of link material. I can change those into Singularity, those being a 2, a 3, so that makes 5, and then one more at 6. So this is like a bad hand. This is what I would call a bad hand. What a bad hand is, it's a draw during my opponent's turn. 3 bounces, Ash Blossom, an Omni Negate, right? A spell trap or monster negate that banishes. And then I also have Deus Worm. So, not the end of the world. I mean, probably not meta defining at all. Maybe hopefully draw into a hand trap. I don't. But yeah, so obviously, yeah, right there you can see, you know, this is spell and trap negate. That's the 3. So it's 4 forms of interaction, and they're pretty darn solid if you ask me. Especially Singularity, I think is just really, really good. And it better be because it's a Link 6. But yeah, those were 3 little kind of combos test hands. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.